Welcome to What the Flick, everybody. Our Game of Thrones review. No One, Season 6, Episode 8. Matt Atchity, Brett Ehrlich, Ben Mankiewicz. The general rule is you take a dagger to the gut. Mm-hmm. In movies, in Game of Thrones, you're dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. But apparently, all you need is water.
Yeah, water.
Sewn up.
Right, water and a good actress.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it just, because it's Game of Thrones, certainly at the moment it happened last week, and and we saw it on the previously, so I'm counting it as this week. But as soon as you saw her surface elsewhere, you obviously knew she'd live. But at that moment when she gets slashed and then stabbed, there's a moment of, all right, well, it's Game of Thrones. They just killed Arya.
Yeah.
Like,
Arya's
we've been led to
done.
believe all these things, and then, nope, misdirection, dead.
Yeah.
But not dead, and a little oddly, actually fine.
Actually quite fine.
Quite fine.
Given Milk of the Poppy, I don't know what that does.
Well, I think, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think we've kind of ended up in a place where you can't necessarily predict who's going to live or who's going to die, but I think you can at least look at, when we lost Ned, when we lost Rob, those are storytelling beats, like what's the worst thing that can happen in and around this area for that? Like, how does that drive the story forward, right? Ramsay kills his father, it drives the story forward. Ned gets killed, drives the story forward. Rob gets killed, drives the story forward.
Right.
Arya getting killed doesn't move anything forward.
That's right.
It
right?
just ends something.
She's been parked, because then that question is, like, she's been parked in Bravos for that long,
No,
and then dies?
Arya surviving drives the story forward.
Right. And so same thing with the Hound, right? Like, we can look back on the Hound and, like, does it move his story does it move the story forward? Well, it turns out it doesn't really move the story forward for him to be dead.
No, it moved. You could argue it was part of moving Arya's story forward.
But I feel like...
But yes, I agree.
I feel like another thing they do, and maybe I'm just wrong about this, is they go, here is hope. Here's a possibility where there's hope and a decision and a lead, and that lead just doesn't pan out. But yeah, you're right. This one is more like this is a major character. We have things we'll talk about today, like the Blackfish. Like, what does that mean?
It's just from a, like, of course, I'm delighted that she survived, and it gave us that great line. The girl is finally no one. No, I'm Arya Stark of Winterfell, and I'm going home. And he's like, all right.
All right,
Good enough.
Yeah,
You're off
he's
the hook.
pretty happy about that.
You're fine. And I got other girls. I get other waifs. No big deal.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll use her face on somebody. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. You go.
It'll be like she's never gone.
Right.
He wasn't even mad that she made a mess.
Right, totally, yeah.
There was just a lot of, like, you couldn't mop. Like, all we taught you was how to clean.
Right, totally, yeah. Was that Arya's blood or Waif's face
I think that's
blood?
Waif's face blood.
That's face blood?
That was still coming down.
Probably both.
Oh.
But considering that, like, we got a nice moment, like there was some puzzle in the previous episode, that strange conversation between Ian McShane and the Hound, where like they would have had this conversation, like, because we see after the Red Wedding, like Edmure says, "Hey, I've been locked up for 2 years." Like, we got an actual time frame on him. But like, if he found the Hound then, and now it's now, like. For 2 years, he didn't say, when I found you, you were in really bad shape.
Right. This wasn't necessarily 2 years, was it? I guess it was like long enough to go to
some significant. It wasn't that long after the Red Wedding. It was on Arya's.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And then so that conversation. But I get it. We have to find out. But it's usually in TV they do that thing where they're like, "How many times have we talked about this already?" They throw us that. But then and then Arya's recovery is in.
No idea.
20 minutes.
20 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. I don't know what Milk of the Poppy does. I assume it's heroin. I want to see the ads for Milk of the Poppy. It's it's just like, this stuff is great. You should use it. She slept.
It's better than milk.
It's like, got cookies of the poppy.
But anyway, it's okay. I got it. It's television still. You still got to get around those. You got to propel the story forward.
It seemed like in her confrontation with the Waif, she had planned out, like, all right, if something happens, I know where to go, but I definitely know that once this chase is on, she knows exactly when to, like, milk being in pain and feigning weakness.
Yeah, that's true.
But very convincingly, because when she fell down the stairs of a million,
Oranges.
Oranges, as they're called in Bravos.
Right.
And she rolls.
And I immediately think oranges. It's like The Godfather. Someone's gonna die.
Yeah, exactly. Oranges
what I like-
and stairs.
What I like is that there was one cry of a woman who lost all her oranges, and it wasn't like my food, it was my basket. She yelled.
Oh, wow.
My basket.
So
My
good.
basket.
All right, we'll dub that in later. I definitely want someone to say my basket. Or they're trying to get rid of it. It's like, we can't. We see her mouth in every shot. We have to keep my basket. Otherwise, it'll just like be. Yeah. So that shot, it was very rewarding.
I mean, that chase scene is fun, but it kind of turns into like, okay, we're getting a preview of the Assassin's Creed movie.
Yeah.
Right?
It was
Like,
also hardcore
she's running
parkour.
on the, the Waif's running on the rooftop
Yeah.
and jumping off of buildings and landing on ground and still running like.
It was funny because
And it's like the third drop, right? It's the third fall that Arya has that finally she tears her stitches loose.
third
Like,
time's a harm.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I was watching it with Iadarola, who couldn't be here today. But running. They're running, and one's going under a cart, and the other's going over that cursed cart that won't go across the hallway. And we're just all shouting, "Hardcore parkour!" like from The Office. It's just like, I don't know.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That was a
Parkour!
Parkour! Hardcore parkour!
So, but that said, still satisfying. And of course, it's funny, all the stuff where I do a little eye rolling, and then the moment she slashes out the candle, you're like, nah.
That was awesome. What if it didn't work? What if the candle just moved down and
Right, just
laid
fell,
on the
just
table?
Right.
And
Still
kept burning.
Right. And then
Moment,
like,
please.
exactly.
Hold.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I will say though, this felt a little padded. Like this was all great stuff, but really, like fundamentally, you get, she knocks the light out, she cuts the candle down, and then the next thing you see is that trail of blood. Like, couldn't we have got that 2 episodes ago? Like, why do we have to wait? Why do we have to see her get stabbed? Like, I don't know that drives the story forward all that much, right? For Arya, like all that.
We
that
could. I
chase
mean, we
scene
could have
and-
had the guy the waif gets sent after her, and then they have a chase, and that leads to the place,
Or-
and she cuts
I
out
think
the
that's
candle.
all unnecessary. Like at the end of that episode, a couple episodes ago, where she blows the light out, right, and sitting there waiting for her sword. Like we know what she's waiting for. She knows that they're going to come after her. She absolutely knows.
So you're saying we could have showed up just with the waif's head? Like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
like the
I
next
think,
time we see her.
I think it would have been just as impactful because the idea that she gets stabbed and goes, and then the actress gets killed, and Lady Crane gets killed, and now Arya's wounded. Like I think that's all unnecessary, unless there's going to be something in Arya that she later references that people have been killed on her behalf. But I think that ultimately, like it feels a little bit padded. Like I don't know that we needed anything that happens from the time of that 2 episodes ago where she blows the light out up until she blows the light out again. Like I think that's unnecessary for Arya's story.
I don't know. Yes, that's an interesting point. I think that because they had invested so much in Arya, and there are people who love Arya's storyline, and then there are people like us who are like, I like it. It always seemed to be happening in a slightly different
Right.
show, different world. Like, hey, let's get back to the part where power is at stake and not her little adventure on the side. I think if you were since they engaged us so much in her story, that you needed a finale to that story worthwhile.
Right.
I think that would have been their argument. That's the other argument.
I think we're heightening it, but also story structure-wise, they were trying to do that parallelism with her and the Hound and how their positions had totally
That's right.
switched.
Right.
But again, that's what I thought was weird about last episode because it did feel like character-wise, we've set Arya up to be the person who's smart enough to know that this kind of thing is coming, that when a weird old lady approaches her on a bridge, she should be like, alarms going off. Why don't you have Waif? Why don't you have Needle at this point? Needle point. And that's, so I thought that was strange. So I do think that a little bit of this was extra from them, English majorly saying, I'm an English major, I need to make sure that these 2 things are
Right, and the previous episode ended with those 2 scenes. The episode ends with Arya in the water, wounded, dying, bleeding, and then the Hound walking off to seek revenge. It is exactly flipped, and they're leading one to believe that, and it would make sense that they're about to find each other, and we may get an unusual Game of Thrones hug.
I know,
Yeah,
right?
like she may literally
very-
run into his arms.
Aw.
You know? Right. Yeah.
They love each other.
Maybe.
What else?
They do. They do. Is Jaime going to keep his bargain? Is he going to allow those troops to head north? And Brienne doesn't even know it. Like, I mean, it seems like that's what that look is.
I don't think so
or
because
does-
they disarmed them all.
Yeah, I mean, yes, they did. That's true. We saw them being disarmed. But that wave and that look indicated I mean, maybe it was just
See you next battle.
Right.
See you next
Yeah.
siege.
And I'm obviously not not sending anybody after you.
But it's weird because their last interaction was Brienne saying like, "All right, so if this doesn't work out, I have to kill you."
Right. And so if you
Right.
so you'd think he'd say, I mean, he did make that deal, like, and although I guess the deal was incumbent on her talking Blackfish into surrendering,
Right.
he got Edmure to talk Blackfish or the army into surrendering.
Correct.
Right, the man.
Which was a really good tactical move on Jaime's part.
It was.
Jaime just leveling and saying, all right, if there's one thing I've learned from every downfall of every character, it's that they love their children, even if they haven't met their children. And Edmure has always been a little stupid.
Right.
A little short-sighted and a little weak, as evidenced by the attack on the Lannister grandnephews that the Blackfish was so pissed about when they first met. When Cat first makes it to Riverrun, there's two Lannister, people that they've captured, and Edmure's so triumphantly like, I got two Lannister nephews, and then Blackfish is like, yes, grandnephews that aren't important. You sent a volley into the Lannister camp unnecessarily.
Right.
That was stupid.
And did they kill those kids? They did, I think.
Did they? Maybe.
Yeah,
I don't remember, but
I did not remember that scene until you just brought it up.
Edmure is set up as this guy who is like proud and Cat's brother, but still doesn't make the best decisions, and that's why it's so sad that he's the one that makes it.
George W. Bush, except smarter,
A little
but
smarter.
but still too dim to make these big.
But
strategic-
not that brash and
right, that's true.
But, yeah.
Without the unearned arrogance.
just like in that family by birth. Anyways, I think that Edmure it was a great plan by Jaime.
It was, and it's not a horrible decision by Edmure because, I mean, ultimately they're gonna get the castle.
Right.
Right.
And he gets the castle.
Right, and now he gets it, and the men are alive, and it's okay.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's not that bad a decision, even though it was made from a point of permanent weakness.
Right. So this is the last person fighting the last war, the Blackfish, right? The last person just being like
Yeah, kind of.
all the way down to like Baratheon's in charge, really. Isn't that what he was saying? Is like, the war's not over.
Right.
I mean, I think it's that war, but maybe it's still the war of the Starks. The Starks in the north are still fighting this.
I think it's that war. I think. That's
Okay,
what he means.
but yeah, the Blackfish. What did we think about not seeing the Blackfish's death?
I think in an episode where where Waif's face got cut off, and we got 2 decapitations in like 6 minutes.
That's true. It
Two.
happened so fast.
2 bang bang heads gone, and disemboweling,
Right.
The
a
Blackfish.
groinal disemboweling.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
When you hear
That was amazing.
when you hear the axe hit pubis, like it hit the bone, it was like thung, almost like he hit armor. That's what was so terrifying.
So that Jaime Brienne stuff, which you said was coming, or maybe John said it was coming, but it was in the coming up next week, whenever.
Right.
It was quite satisfying, and the Braun, is it Gendry?
Padre.
No, that's
Padre.
Pod.
Who's Gendry?
Gendry is one of the illegitimate sons.
Oh, so
of
he's the
Baratheon.
one out.
He's
in
the one
water.
who took off in the boat and we've never
Right,
seen again.
we've
Yeah.
never seen again.
Right.
So
He's going to show up
In the back.
outside of Slaver's Bay as that war is going on, right? As the war in Marine is going on.
Marine's going on.
He'll be rowing up and be like,
Oh.
I'm going to turn around.
Sorry.
Go the other way
Wrong
and go
place.
back.
Yeah.
Luckily, there's fish.
5 years later, he's reached Easter.
He's west of Westeros, maybe.
Exactly.
Right, with a volleyball.
Exactly.
But that was the scene between Brienne and Jaime was satisfying, and then the Bronn Podrick scene was
Yeah.
so
So good.
great. Yeah.
Lesson number 1. act like everyone wants to slap you. Assume everyone wants to hit you.
Then how come I was able to come up behind you and murder you?
Yeah.
Just murder.
Well, that's
you.
a different kind of fighting.
Just
It's like, it is.
That's right.
It's so great. There have been so many little, pods of relationships around over the course of this show that I forgot that they were buds. And as soon as I saw it pull out, I was like, from the choking scene.
Right.
Framing. I was just so happy. I was just so happy.
One of the things this show does really well, as much as we like it when the plot moves forward and we like to see big story developments, it's these smaller moments where, 6 seasons into this, we're seeing real relationships between these characters. And that's great. They're writing these as, between Bronn and Pod. We'd totally forgotten that. There's the great moment, the great goodbye moment between Varys and Tyrion.
Yeah, right.
And then Tyrion finally seems to be getting Missandei and Grey Worm to loosen up a little bit. That scene was so much fun.
Yeah, it was so
And
great.
these, and the Brienne Jaime scene, like now we know these characters enough that when they talk to each other, it means something. And we really are kind of invested in them, and they earn the way these characters interact, and it's really impactful.
And Jaime and Bronn too.
Yeah.
I told, and you will, Alanis, don't say it.
Don't fucking say it, because you guys don't have any money anymore.
Right, when Bronn says in that last episode, like, these guys don't know how to build a trench, he's like,
Sounds
like you just volunteered.
Yeah.
He's like, oh.
Yeah, Campo want to sack ya, I think is what that looks like.
Yeah.
I think, and they do such a really good job of setting up what each character's code is. And that's what we see in the camp siege area with the castle, is just people with very set codes, even if they don't seem like it, of how they live, talking to each other about them.
Right.
Because you have Brienne who's like, just so you know, by my rule of living, I've been sent by someone I'm pledged to negotiate this settlement of troops and advancing armies and ownership of Riverrun. But if it doesn't work out, Jaime, I love you, not so secretly. I know what you've done because you had no other choice. But I have no other choice but to follow my beliefs. And if this goes forward without the arrangement we said we're setting up, I'm going to have to kill you. And everyone calling Jaime out on being that person who broke his oath. But according to him, he's like, listen, I've lived with people who keep their oaths, and sometimes it just seems so stupid. So in many ways, that aligns with Bronn, where it's like, listen, I'm going to do whatever I have to do because I just am tired of the honor thing. I think everyone wants to smack me, so I'm going to smack them first. The Blackfish just like pulling away face crust.
The moment you get between Edmure and Jaime, where Edmure is like calling, saying like,
how do you sleep?
How do you sleep? How do you live with yourself? You must think you're a decent person. And Jaime ends up, without explicitly saying so, like Jaime knows that he's done terrible things, but he says that whatever it takes to get him back to Cersei. Right, whatever it takes. Like if he has to kill every member of House Tully, every person in the Tully army to get back to Cersei, that's what he'll do. And he says at one point, something along the lines of, I'll do anything for love, which echoes the end of something in the first episode where somebody pointed out to me on Facebook that he says when he pushes Bran out the window, the things I do for love.
Yeah.
Right.
It also echoes Meatloaf.
It does echo me.
Also
That's
echoes
right.
Meatloaf.
That's right.
But yeah, he does. That's his thing. Everyone has their
except
thing.
that Jaime doesn't have the "I won't do that" line.
Yeah, exactly. I will do
I'll do
that.
that.
Yeah.
Because
I'll
I've
do it.
already had sex with my sister.
Right.
But there was that great. So Jaime, we talked about this when we first started doing these recaps, but the Jaime character rehabilitation is stunning. That they were able to fully rehabilitate a character who pushed a little boy out a window to start because he was to cover up having sex with his sister. Like, I mean, you can't. That's an unredeemable character. And then they redeemed him, and now they've gone a ways toward undoing that redemption. And then we get his speech, and he's clearly unlike most powerful people here. Robert Baratheon never had a moment of, is this the right thing to do? But Jaime and certainly Tywin never had it. And Cersei never will. But Jaime throughout, he was, the look at Brienne, he's wondering whether this threat he made, we don't know whether he would have gone through with it with Edmure, with catapulting his babies into the river. But at that point, you kind of believe him.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
So I'm just curious how we leave, when what are you supposed to think about Jaime?
I
Like, at
think
what
what
point do you go, you know what, he's actually, okay, he's horrible, and he's permanently horrible, even though he's handsome and charming.
Well, I think where we've got with Jaime is that I think Jaime's redemption, we'll call it, is in his self-awareness, right? And I think that where Jaime, early on in the show, like, we don't see that, we see him being this very kind of surface character, that he's not very deep, and he's, good looking and charming, but when the chips are down, and, now that he's lost his hand, like, he understands himself in a way that I think he didn't early on in the show. And where it is, and this is what he says to Edmure, it's like, whatever it takes to get back to Cersei, he's willing to do.
Okay,
Because
but that's evil.
No.
Right.
It is evil. I'm not saying he's a good character, but he becomes one of those villains that, like, oh, you understand him, which I think makes him more interesting as a villain. Like, he will go on to be a monster, but we understand.
Totally, he's super interesting. I agree.
Most stories don't tell you enough about the villain and the victims to give you the opportunity to like both.
Right.
And this show just sets up, the whole show is about philosophies of living, which breed loyalties, fighting against each other, or dying.
Yes.
That's what I think it is. It started there's houses with words and sigils, and those things outline their entire code of conduct, just trying to survive.
I did like, and I think we all have to acknowledge Jaime's, again, it goes to his self-awareness when he's like, yeah, I got to do everything I can to get back to Cersei. Yeah, laugh, sneer, I got it. Yeah, she's my sister, and I love her, and we have sex and have kids. I got it. You're going to think that's not, I don't care. I don't care anymore that you're, go ahead and make fun of it all you will. But I sense Jaime, and of course this is an untraditional manner of storytelling and they constantly surprise you. Jaime seems like the kind of person who will ultimately sacrifice his life for something good at a moment when he's like, oh, I have to do this. I have to lead. I have to kill this person.
Maybe only for Cersei, though.
Maybe, yeah, I don't know. But I sense that that's the full run of he's like, you know what, I'm not allowed to live anymore. But I can help some good come here. And it may be that, no, Cersei, I'm going to push you off this cliff and we're going to go together.
Yeah.
Like it's time that we're.
Right, you can't live anymore, but
our story's
I don't
over.
want to live
Right? I'll die with you, but you can't do any more damage.
Speaking of Cersei, no trial by combat.
That's such horseshit.
No Clegane Bowl, as the internet.
Well,
that's what I thought. It was exactly timed out to happen.
Look, okay, but to be clear, just because it's not a trial by combat doesn't mean we can't have a Clegane Bowl.
Yeah, right. I feel like
right, but it's an unofficial. It's like an exhibition game.
Yeah, but what if one can't die? What if it's like Robo Clegane?
Right.
Exactly.
It's not quite. It's not quite. Although it appears the Hound can't die either.
Yeah, that's
exactly.
right.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
And as we learned from what's the other guy? Beric
Dondarrion.
Right. So we got him back. So that was also, by the way, talking about relationships. I mean, those guys aren't great friends, but it looks like the Hound is going to go on that journey. I mean, he's not into the religious stuff, but he seemed like, I'd rather not walk this world totally alone.
Yeah.
I suppose I could hang out with you guys. And
Right. Dondarrion's like, you're a fighter. You're good at that.
Like, let's go. And, and he's like, I'm not signing on. I might leave at any time, but okay.
Man, that scene where he comes and starts taking those guys apart, like the fist of an angry god. The Hound is back.
The Hound is an axe murderer.
Yeah.
Or an axe executioner.
Yeah.
Oh, no, he's an axe murderer.
Right, but they had it coming. I mean, they were.
But if it wasn't an axe, it'd be a sword. And if it wasn't a sword, it'd be a mace. And if it wasn't a mace, it'd be his fist.
I love that it's an axe, though, because
Yeah.
now it's very much like that character that's like a lot of video games now have characters like this, where it's like, all right, he has become this crappy shoed woodsman with an axe. Like that's what he turned into. And he's, the same axe that he used to split wood when in the time that symbolized his turnaround and turn away from all that BS of like murder and of walking the world, killing people and being a bad person. Like now that axe is going back to, now it's in his hand and he's doing exactly what he would have done otherwise.
Yeah, I think that's right. He, but it was also, there was a coolness aspect to it that you just can't. And I loved that conversation, and I love being reminded. I love getting little flashbacks to characters we haven't seen since season 3. You know,
Right.
Because I guess because he said to him, the Hound had said to him back then, like, I've killed, and I kill, we all, or he said it here, we all will accept you, right?
Yeah.
And he was the guy we were all talking about to know that Jon Snow was coming back.
Come back, yeah.
And that guy with the man bun, he's a Lord of the Light person, right? He's like
he's the drunken priest that now can bring people back.
He's just not as
Right, Thoros Amir, I think is.
He doesn't. Yeah, I don't know his name, but I know he doesn't. He says, "I don't know why I have this power.
Right.
I was a lost person, and the Lord of Light found me." So there's that.
We should also mention the great thing before we totally done with Lady Crane and her death. The great line that she had about, sometimes I gut my boyfriends.
Yeah,
exactly. I got good at patching them up. They'd go out, they'd sleep around.
Right.
I'd put holes in them.
What am I supposed to do?
Them.
I gotta stab them.
So good.
Yeah, too bad that of course, she was too. But also to the point that we thought we get more of the actors because of Richard E. Grant.
Right. Well, we learned that lesson last episode, right?
It doesn't necessarily matter. Maybe we are done with them. You'd think.
Right. It's funny that 6 seasons in, we're still surprised that people get killed.
I know, but I
Like
still
Ian
can't.
McShane. What? No.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, it's hard to tell the people that this show, a testament to this show, is that there are 2 categories of actors appearing on it whom we know from other things. One, the ones they cast because these are awesome actors to play very important roles, and 2 awesome actors who are like, yeah, I'd love to be in that show for a week.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that caliber of people that we just gravitate toward and should be in everything.
Right.
Are the same ones that are like, I want to do that.
I still can't believe he's gone though. It was so great to see.
McShane?
Yeah, it was so great, and he did so much Al Swearingen in that episode. He's so much.
Nearly shit myself.
Just what he said to those guys, he's like, well, we're here, having a food. We're just here, whatever. You? Just his little. Yeah, it was so Al Swearingen. Okay, and then we get Daenerys back.
Who looks pissed?
Yeah, she looks. She's
Right.
like, I leave for 2 months, and all of a sudden the slavers are back. What did you do?
Yeah, she looks angry.
But
Right.
you like Tyrion with his he's like, I got it, I hear you.
It worked. I mean, he bought peace for a second in a city, but if even for a second, there's a lot that happened in Marine this week. And Tyrion got peace for a second. The fact that Varys is smarter than Cersei, as evidenced by him saying, like, you'd shave with a razor, it could still cut you.
Right.
Knowing
That
that
was a
if you
great line.
arm the faith, Varys is like, that's something I would advise everybody against.
That was a great
He
line.
wasn't there to advise King's Landing against it.
Well,
and
as
it
Varys
was-
leaves, that was a really bittersweet moment. Like, you can see that Tyrion, he's not really willing to say how much he's going to miss Varys, but Varys leaves.
But who are the fanatics that Tyrion made the deal with? Just
the red people, the Lords of Light followers.
The Harpy people.
Right.
Those.
So basically, what Varys is talking about is
Right.
is a 2-pronged approach to securing the
Melisandre
peace.
Jr., Rachel Weisz Jr.
Rachel Weisz Jr.
Right.
And then on the other hand, peace with the slavers, saying in 7 years you
But
need
we
to
don't
get
know
rid of
that we don't know that the Varys's prediction has come true. We don't know.
Not yet.
Right.
Right.
So because the attack came from the slavers.
Yes.
He's like, watch out. But if you're looking at who seems to be the folks that I think are best equipped to fight the Night's King, it is the fire people, because he's the ice guy and the fire people. So if you look at where all the fire people are entrenched, they're entrenched with the Brotherhood without banners. They're entrenched with Robb Stark and company, and they're entrenched with Khaleesi and Marine now. So if those people come together to fight,
You mean with John's, not with Robb Stark?
Jon
Jon,
Snow,
okay, right,
sorry,
yeah.
with Jon Snow in the north. And I think if those people like say, all right, here's our Lord of Light network, and we're going to use dragons and blood magic to kill the Night's King, that's a pretty good initial coalition of the thrilling.
Hard to believe that the dragons couldn't do damage to the Night King.
Yeah, just
that army. Right, but we don't know.
If dragon glass
Although I will point
kills
out,
them.
all of that, the Lord of Light's followers, that may be on their radar, but I don't think that any of that stuff that's going on at the Wall is on Daenerys' radar at all.
Correct.
That's right.
Daenerys is interested in getting Westeros back. She just wants the Seven Kingdoms.
And it seems like all the Lord of Light people have different theories as to what the Lord of Light wants.
Yeah,
they're not all on the same page.
I mean, the magic is real.
Wait a minute. Are you saying that different clergy members might have different interpretations.
We've got the we've got our Seventh Day Adventist version. We've got our Baptists. The different.
Daenerys is smart though. So that same speech that Jon gave to the wildlings, and that Davos gave to Little Mormont. A scene I watched again last night to catch my wife up, which was just lovely for the second time also. That speech is going to have to at some point be given to Daenerys. Like, I know you want to go to Westeros, and I know you want to take power, and you know what? I'm okay with that, right? Like, Jon will be like, I'll just
but
hang
you
out
can't
in
do
Winterfell.
that unless you go
Right,
here.
but we're all gonna die unless we.
There'll be nothing.
There'll be nothing
if
for
you
you to
don't go up
rule
here
if we
first.
don't come up here first. That's right. And that speech, it's worked some. Also, that great line from last week, which I'm sure you guys talked about, but from who's the big guy, Tormund?
Tormund Giant.
Yeah, he's like, we're not like you Southerners when we.
Yeah,
When
we're
we
not
say we'll do
clever.
something, we're not clever like you Southerners. When we say we'll do something, we'll do it. All right, what else? Anything else?
Wait, there was more. When Tyrion said he has a dream about a vineyard, I was like, oh shit, is he gonna die? Whenever someone talks wistfully about their
retirement
dream or past,
right?
It's
Maybe.
really scary.
Yeah.
Maybe that, because the other thing we need to talk about is what the secret mission that Varys is going on, and
of course,
what the whispers are saying
Wait,
about.
what was that? What was that?
All right, so wait, let's talk about Varys, because Varys is leaving, and I love the moment where he turns to Tyrion. He says, "This is a secret mission. I can't have the most famous dwarf in the city walking with me." And as he gets a little bit farther away, as a goodbye, Tyrion's like, "Most famous dwarf in the world."
Yeah.
That was good
Right,
stuff.
that was a great scene. And then Tyrion, desperate for some level of conversation with.
Yeah,
Missandei and
Missandei.
Grey
Such a
Worm.
great scene. Like
The best.
the jokes are terrible, right? I laughed so hard when Grey Worm says, "That is the worst joke I've ever heard."
Yeah. It's so
That was
good.
so funny. Like the timing of that was great. And then he says, and they all act shocked, and he says, "I was in army. You think I never heard joke?" Like,
So good.
it was
So
so funny.
good. So what is a secret mission?
So that's the key. What is that secret mission?
Seems like it revolves around ships.
Right. So
I know what the secret mission is, and I can't say.
So you read the books.
Yeah.
Oh, so the secret
here-
mission is revealed in the books.
Yes.
Okay, here's what also was great is that
Or some
when he's like,
level of it.
"Why are you leaving? What about Khaleesi coming back?" And he goes, and Varys says, "She'll come back. She has to." And I was waiting for Tyrion to go, "You've read the books, but we're past the books. We're past the books."
We don't know what his secret mission is, and we don't know. Well, you know what that is. Is it ship related?
I'm not going to say anything.
All right.
He says something about we need ships.
Oh, he does?
So I would assume it's ship related, but he's at least
maybe
going
why I
out to
said that.
find some kind of ally.
No, I meant what is that mission ship related? Is the
So the books don't exactly explain the whole of the mission, but he ends up in a
what's
place.
that guy's name? Which one? Are you talking about Varys? Or are we
Varys.
talking- okay,
Yeah.
so but do you know what the
whispers
what
have
the whispers?
brought back to Westeros.
I don't. If I do
Okay,
know,
that's
I don't
what
remember.
I'm less
What-
interested in Varys' mission because we'll find that out
Right,
quickly.
but what Qyburn is hinting at, right?
Right.
With Cersei.
Right.
I don't know.
Okay,
Like,
all right, I gotcha.
my initial thought, I said this last night, and if this is in the books, I don't remember it at all. My initial thought was something about, do they have some dirt on the High Sparrow, right? But then a bunch of other readers pointed out, or a bunch of other viewers on Facebook last night mentioned that maybe they had found out, because this was established in the show previously, that there was all that wildfire that the last king had, right? And so maybe Qyburn's found out about that, although I would think that that's kind of already known, because I
Yes.
thought all that wildfire got used out in the bay outside King's Landing to
Right.
blow up Stannis' navy.
The other
So,
thing, yeah.
I don't know.
The other theory is whose whispers are these previously, and they're Varys' whispers.
Right, so are they feeding false information?
I think it's either false information, which actually I hadn't thought of, but that totally makes sense, or it is the next person we see after that scene is Tyrion. And that happens a lot in television where it's
right.
something hinted at, and then we see what they were talking about in the next scene. And that next shot isn't like one of those sick establishing shots. The next shot after she's like, "Oh, splendid," is just Tyrion's face.
Okay, so then the whispers, then I believe the whispers is my evil son-killing brother still alive?
Yes, exactly.
Like
and he is alive, and he is in Marine.
And he's a Marine.
And he's allied with the Whisper King, Varys.
Right.
And clearly
dragons.
they know the dragons in there.
Right, so they may know that. Okay, that's interesting.
I
Although
don't know that matters to Cersei, though, in her immediate
maybe
situation.
Maybe not, yeah.
Right.
I
You're
took
saying
that
your
discussion was
ones-
something about, like,
This is how
because
we get
she
rid of the
brought,
Sparrow.
because after she got that news, she brings it up to Qyburn to say, what about those rumors I asked you to look into? And I don't think that she's asking, like, hey, by the way, like, oh, I'm totally screwed now. No trial by combat. I'm going to be facing this terrible trial. Hey, what's going on with my brother?
Right.
Like, I think
Yeah,
it's
that's a
more
good point.
Right, she's got an immediate. Okay, that's probably perhaps that's more likely. But there's still the TV
Right.
talking about the whispers, and then Tyrion's there. That's indicative usually of what we're talking about. But I think it's also a couple things worth mentioning. Even though I guess we didn't see Marjorie in this episode, we still like how long is her play? Is her play to get Cersei? Is her play just to get the High Sparrow? My wife thinks it's to get Cersei. I think it's to get the High Sparrow.
Now, Marjorie's play is to give birth to a child,
Right.
bump off Tommen, and then she's the queen regent, and
Right.
the Tyrells take the throne.
Right,
That's her play.
Right. So that would not involve working with Cersei. That would definitely
Right. No,
work.
it's
But either way, we know she's got to play, and it's because she's it skipped a generation, but she's like her grandmother, definitely skipped a generation.
right. Well, that was the scene we saw, right? Like
right,
when the
with the
High
note.
Sparrow last episode says, "Yeah, you need to go back to the marriage bed. The king needs an heir."
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
That's right. But she would have. But that means also that Tommen is talking to the High Sparrow, and we're not seeing those scenes. So we don't know whether Marjorie influenced Tommen to eliminate the trial by combat, so that Cersei would have a public trial, or whether the High Sparrow did it, because
that's a good point.
they are talking independent. We also got from the Mountain's brutal decapitation number 1 in this episode.
By a Clegane brother.
Right, each of the Clegane brothers decapitated.
Hard to
someone.
do.
It is hard to do.
I'm trying right now.
Wait, come here.
But we got from that decapitation a reaction from Lancel, which indicates maybe I'm not all in. Like,
or at least like, oh, they got this guy?
right? No, but to me that was his reaction was not. It was a degree of this. Why? Like Lancel can be reached. Like he's not so far gone. Like he reacted to a decapitation, not the
Or
way.
at least he can be intimidated.
But not the way a dedicated faith militant reacts.
How about Qyburn's reaction?
Oh,
Which,
yeah.
like, in the background, like,
Nice, I did good work.
right? He's
Ooh,
like,
beastie.
oh, yeah, beast mode.
So, but I think the secret Tom and High Sparrow conversations are clearly somehow relevant in some way and could cause the split between Marjorie. Who realized Tommen was going to be this big a character?
I mean, by being a little thing,
Right.
he became a big character.
That's right.
Because he's so impressionable. It's like floaters in Big Brother. The people who get the furthest are the ones who don't really do anything as long as possible.
You're the first
The
normal
folks who
person.
show up and are like, all right, I'm in charge and everything. Those are the ones who get voted out weeks 1 and 2 because it's like those people are too big as
I've
shit
literally
disturbers.
never had a conversation with anyone in my life who watches Big Brother. Ever in
It's,
my entire
I hadn't, and then I started, and
then
it's
you
just like
can't-
Game
you
of
can't
Thrones.
stop, right?
It's just like Game of Thrones.
Decapitations?
We should do
Yeah,
we should do
mostly.
the Westeros Big Brother.
Westeros
Right.
Big Brother. Who are we voting off today? Floater.
No,
Tommen's a floater.
It's not who are we voting off. Whose head are we tearing
Yeah,
off today?
So
They just open the door and roll it out the front and shut it. And Julie Chen's like, ah!
I think we're good.
All right.
2 episodes left. And
I think we are only outside Winterfell next episode.
Yeah, the War of the
Oh, you
Bastards.
think it's coming? It's the
The War of the Bastards. And there
Yeah.
might be another bastard showing up if we think he's going to row through the ice onto the battlefield.
But also, we know that we presume that Sansa sent a text to Mayor Baltimore.
We
Yeah.
think so, yeah.
So, yeah,
So we
that's what
assume
happened.
that they're
So
gonna
the
get-
Knights of the Vale.
They're going to get some assistance from the Knights of the Vale, which is going to be great in the short term because it'll help
Right.
with the Boltons. But obviously, Peter doesn't offer this without. Peter has to be dealt with. But that guy, that's another guy can't be killed. Like there's 1,000 people should have
Right.
killed that guy, and he hasn't killed.
Right. That dude's slippery.
All right, all that's coming next week. Thanks for watching, everybody.